So you recently participated in the Labor Summit with our friends over at RBN, in which you appeared with Jill Stein, who I guess up until today or yesterday, I don't remember which day it was, she announced she was stepping down as his interim campaign manager since now they're going to bring in, I guess, the official full-time staff. But you were talking a bit about the Cornel campaign and his candidacy. How would you grade his performance as a candidate thus far? Strengths and weaknesses, and most importantly, because this is the question I concern myself most with, how confident are you that he'll actually stick it out till November of next year? Because it looks like the media and the Democrats and a lot of people who used to be on very good terms with him are trying to bully him out of the race now. And if I'm being honest, I'm a little concerned that at some point he might give in. I hope he doesn't, obviously. But what's your take on all that?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, you're absolutely right, Keaton. They have gone on an offensive against him, and you can see it everywhere. Wherever he goes, whether it is Anderson Cooper or one of those, even the more somewhat
Yeah, Caitlin
independent.
Collins, the new one
Yeah,
over there. Yeah.
exactly. They are attacking him, and almost every day there's in the news this almost. And you guys played a very funny clip where they were looking almost in mourning, as if almost Cornel West has already
Yeah.
destroyed Biden's campaign. That was hilarious. So yeah, I mean,
Indeed. Yeah. Here I had. Here I
yeah,
put this. Yeah. There you
yeah.
go. Set the mood.
Yes, exactly. And so that shows that they are taking this dead seriously. And of course, the reason they are doing that is because not only have they not done anything for the working class, they are also running a candidate who is deeply unpopular, to the point where if half the people say, I don't want to vote for either Trump or Biden, I'm waiting for something else, what does that tell you about the candidates, right? I mean, what does that tell you about the two parties? And I think you all made a very important point, which was that in reality, uh, even though the Democratic Party has differences from Trump, they're really hoping that Trump is the Republican nominee because they think that in a matchup against Trump, Biden can win. That is such a dead end for working people. Like, they are literally offering nothing, and they also have the temerity to say things like, how do we bring the black voters in line, back in line, or something like that. Maybe I'm not quoting it right, but
What they say, keep them in line. They
yeah,
keep
something
Yeah,
these
like
keep them in
voters in
line. That was
line.
part of the same segment where the woman, I forget who they were interviewing, she said explicitly what the Democrats are counting on is Donald Trump winning the nomination, and they're counting on being able to fearmonger against him so that they can win with nothing.
Yeah, exactly. And they are completely, I mean, so they're busy demonizing Cornel West, and they're completely ignoring the fact that big sections of Black voters and Latino voters and young voters are disenchanted from them. And so it's like, I was thinking this morning, it's like the definition of the sore loser. They haven't even lost and they're blaming the other side.
Right.
And they are basically their tagline, the Democratic Party's tagline is, we can win if nobody runs against us. So that's pretty much what's going on there. And so in that context, first of all, for Cornel West to run all the way is absolutely crucial, because this is something, this can offer an organizing platform for working people, right? We're not in fantasy land. We're not talking about in him winning the candidate, I mean, presidency, because that's not something that we see happening. But what we do understand is that unless we have such kind of genuine left campaigns with a sincere person running as a candidate and with a strong campaign, and I'll come to your questions in a second, that offers an opportunity for us to build something here, which is what we need most of all. And we need to get out of this thinking of, oh well, which is the candidate we can support who can win. That's not very the point here. um, but in that context, yes, it is important for him to run all the way. And what's in terms of grading him, and also what we need to see going forward, I think that he has done tremendously in many of his interviews. You can see that um, he doesn't back down. They attack him over and over again, and he has never backed down on who he is. And it helps that he is not a career politician. It helps that he's been a lifelong activist, that he is who he is, whether you agree with him or disagree with him. He's not pretending to care about social and economic justice. He genuinely does care. And I think that's extremely important. I think going forward, it'll be crucial for not only him as the candidate, but also for the campaign as a whole to much more so than they are doing now. They are doing it, but I would like to see more, is highlighting the kinds of concrete demands that the campaign can bring people together on. Like, highlighting living wages, $25 an hour, Medicare for all, canceling student debt, taxing Wall Street. This sort of thing is
Well,
really
I'm sorry to cut you off,
important.
but he backed your rent control bill, right? I
Yes.
assume that's not a coincidence. I assume you had something to do with asking him for it. I'd imagine.
Yeah, and actually, I mean, it really also credit to Jill Stein. It actually
Right.
happened on air. When we were on RVN together, 2 days before the Labor Summit, actually, I was talking about rent control, and on air, she said, "Let's talk offline. I need to make sure we send out a press release on this," and she helped make it happen. So that is exactly an example. It's an example of the kind of real life issues that the campaign should engage on. And it in Seattle, I mean, yes, it's a small, very small example, but it's an important example that when we told the people who are fighting for rent control here that look at how the Democrats are selling you out, and here's Cornel West, he's calling it a moral imperative. That had a huge impact on people's consciousness. So we need Cornel West's campaign to be raising their profile on concrete issues on a national scale. For example, they need to be speaking to the Teamster rank and file. They need to be talking to the Hollywood actors and writers, strikers. All of those, real life issues they need to be engaging on.
I also think they could use some media help, because I agree with you that he hasn't backed down off of any of his positions. But I do think, for example, in that Anderson Cooper interview, he could have been a lot stronger. I think you would be a great person to coach him a little bit. I know that if Anderson were interviewing you and he tried to give you that Iraq-Ukraine bullshit, I mean, he'd have needed a wardrobe break during a commercial if you were on that. So, and I think Cornel let him railroad him a little bit there. So I'd like to see a little bit more teeth. I don't know if you, obviously you're in touch with them, but I think a few sessions with you would benefit him greatly.
Yeah, okay. I'm so glad you brought that up, Keaton, because I was also watching. When I was watching it, I was just I could barely stay sitting, because
Right.
you're totally right. That was a question where you have to go on an offensive. Really the answer to, part of the answer to Anderson Cooper is, are you kidding me? You have the nerve to talk about the Iraq war in this way? Like, who are you? Like, what is, to really expose not only Anderson Cooper, but CNN as a whole as this kind of purveyor of outright lies.
Right, exactly. That whole thing where Anderson Cooper said, well, you can't compare the Russian bombing of Grozny to the U.S. bombing of Iraq. I mean, just absolutely ludicrous. I made a little video edit of that.
Well, you can't because it was actually a lot less brutal.
Right.
Is that what you mean?
Exactly.
Yeah. Incredible.
Please clap.